Have a Coke and a smile. In our continuing interest in making Frankenbrews, we came up with this idea, and we found Mexican Coke at our Costco. Now, let me read to you the ingredients here, because we did the root beer from IBC, and that had sodium benzoate in it, which was a little bit of an issue. This, where is it? Carbonated water, cane sugar. That's important. You really don't want to ferment high fructose corn syrup. It doesn't taste great, okay? Caramel color. Caramel color makes it caramel. Yeah, whatever. Phosphoric acid, natural flavors, and caffeine. Now, caffeine, we know, works really well in fermentation generally. It makes a very energetic fermentation. The one thing that worries me is that phosphoric acid. That's what gives it that really sharp flavor on your palate. So that's why we got this stuff, which is cherry juice. So we're making cherry Coke wine. I mean, how perfect is that? Because it takes the acidity level down. Hopefully, we're going to check it. We have a pH meter. I just think that's a brilliant idea. Thanks, Derica. But the really interesting part about this is there's no preservatives in here, unless they're in such a small quantity that they legally didn't have to notate them, in which case they probably won't be a factor for us. I was thinking we were going to have to cook this, because a lot of time preservatives, you can't actually cook them out. It sort of works. So I was thinking we were going to have to do that, but that's a whole other video now. We don't have to do it in this one. So this got a lot easier.
But we also know in our research of traditional winemaking methods that after fermentation is complete, it was customary to change the pH by making it more acidic as a preservative method. So that could be another reason why they put the acid in there, so that way they wouldn't have to add additional preservatives.
Right. So this is going to be a pretty simple one. We're going to add some Coke. These bottles should be reusable if you like bottle capping. And I want to get the fizz out, quite a bit of it anyway, because CO2 can help inhibit fermentation. So sometimes I love my job.
I need one of those
a visor.
Splash shield things. All right, so how much Coke are we putting in here?
6 12-ounce bottles, also known as 72 ounces.
72 ounces.
So this came about because, well, we wanted to do the Coke wine. Actually, we wanted to do Mountain Dew wine, but we found the Coke. And I said, oh, let's do it. And then Derica was drinking one of these. Believe it or not, Derica had a Coke.
I don't like Coke.
I do, actually.
But I was like, wait, we got cherry juice.
And she mixed it with cherry juice. And this video was born in that moment. But it solves the problem of the acidicness. Acidity? Yeah. It cuts it by half, pretty much, or more, because, you know, it's a logarithmic scale when it comes to pH.
It also depends on what the pH is of the cherry juice.
We're going to check both, probably. It's good to enjoy your work. By the way, I would totally do the flick a bottle cap thing at the camera, except that that's the new camera and I'm not doing that. I wouldn't do it to the old camera, because bottle caps could hurt it. It'd just be funny.
I'd have to do like a Mythbusters style build of a
plexiglass in front of it, yeah.
Cage.
Could do that. That one's not pouring as nice.
Oh.
Every drop. There we go. Okay. That's all of our Coke. All right, so we have our handy dandy pH meter here, which people have asked, how do you calibrate these? We are going to be doing a video on calibrating your pH meter. They're all a little bit different, but it's pretty simple stuff, really. That's coming out eventually, when I get a chance. You know, honestly, not that bad. 3.3, 3.2. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds or so. Yeah, 3.2. That's not that bad. Usually you want to be bare minimum 3.5.
Do you want to pour some cherry juice in this?
Yes.
And
oh yeah, I should have been doing that already. Our cherry juice. Here's the ingredients. Black, dark sweet cherry juice. That's it. Nothing else. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a shake to get all the goop off the bottom, because the goop is the good stuff. And I'm going to pour some into this Pyrex here because we're going to do something that we haven't done in a long time, but we've recently started doing again because
pH,
we've had
please.
some problems. Oh, you want me to do the pH of it? See, I thought she wanted something else, but I'll do the pH. Much higher. So far it's at 4.8, so I'm guessing it's going to be about, well, 4.7. It's going down just ever so slightly. So that means, theoretically, it should fall somewhere between 3.2 and 4.7, which would be something like 4-ish.
That should be perfect then.
Yeah, so it's totally fine. 4.6. I'm going to go with 4.6.
All right, so the other thing that Brian thought we were going to do, which we're going to do now, is pre-hydrate our yeast. And the reason why we're doing this is because we've had some issues lately with our yeasts not living up to their full potential. We think it's because of the unrealistically high temperatures that have happened globally this summer. So wherever our yeast is coming from has to get on multiple transportation devices to get to us. And most of those, probably all of those, are not temperature controlled. So we might have ended up with dead yeast.
We're using Premier Blanc yeast today because it's a 17 to 18% tolerance, and it's known for being able to push through. It's kind of like EC1118. It's a champagne yeast, good for higher difficulty brews. People use it for starting stalled fermentations a lot of the time. And I'm just gonna give this a little bit of a swirl here. That clumped up instantly. It's like they all wanted to give one big group hug.
Yeah. In your own. I said it all wrong, didn't I? It's getting the whole, don't you? What is the thing about the whole?
I'm just gonna let you dig it.
Oh man. He left me out there on a cliff. I'm wavering.
Get off. Get off.
What you need?
More juice.
All right, we got that. Whoa.
Didn't really work. So the yeast is all like caked onto my baster here. That was why I added more juice.
So speaking of juice, how much juice total do we have that we're going to add to this?
64 ounces, aka 1/2 gallon. Just gonna put this to the side, walk away. So someone recently asked why we don't just mix the yeast in with the yeast nutrient. And I actually found out that if you give too much yeast nutrient up front, even ferment, that you could actually harm the yeast and kill them. So that's why we don't do it. That's not really why we didn't do it before, but that's why we don't do it now. In the past, it's just because I had to show different steps in the videos. But now, it's because I know it'll kill the yeast. How's that?
Now, if you look at the manufacturer's recommendation for prehydrating the yeast, many different companies have very different techniques and different additives and blah, 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 blah. You can do exactly as they say, or you can just do the best.
Ignore it all and do like I do.
As you can.
I put a little bit of the must or juice or sometimes even just water into a container. All I'm looking for is that yeast alive? That's it. That is, I mean, it's a low bar, just, are they alive? Do they foam up a little bit?
Now, the reason why we have chosen to put it in our juice is because that's going to have some of the elements that our must is going to have in it. So that way it'll be starting to acclimate and the environment is going to be living in.
Also has some sugars, so they'll start actually converting to some alcohol. Not any considerable amount, but it does actually start. All right, so what's the next thing we're gonna do?
More juice in here.
More juice in here. Now, because you want to aerate, I'm going to do the fancy pour. Every drop. Come on, one more. No matter how much you shake, how much you dance. Who knows the rest of that one? Don't say it, but just say, I know, in the comments. That's all you gotta do, I know. And everybody else will be like, what the heck are they talking about? It's funny. I love doing stuff like that. And then here's the last one. It smells like cherry Coke. One of these days, it's gonna fly out of my hand. Okay, so we are making a 1 gallon batch. It's actually slightly over. on purpose. I'm using the 1.4 Little Big Mouth bubbler that I know are hard to get right now. I'm sorry. I'm using it mostly out of convenience for us. Could this have been done in a regular narrow mouth? Absolutely, no problem. This is a slightly smaller batch than some of them that we do. Letting the yeast go for a little while.
You want to go ahead and put the fermented O in here?
I can put the fermented O in there though.
All right, so this is 5 grams?
10 grams.
10 grams, that's right. We've upped our
We have
grammage.
started using 10 grams for higher ABV brews. Oh, you know what? We didn't even think about that. What's the ABV of this? We have no idea.
We haven't taken a gravity reading.
Well, I want to put this in anyway.
All right.
But I mean, we might be adding sugar.
We got a big blob up there.
There's a lot of big blobs.
Over here, over there, right there.
People, yeah. Everybody tries to guess what movie that's from. A few people have gotten it right. Many, please don't argue with us about what movie.
We watched this
I
video.
literally
this
know
movie,
which
like,
movie it is.
Once a
Somebody
month.
argued with us that it was a certain movie that it was not.
It was not. Same actress, different
Yeah,
movie.
they're the right actress, but wrong movie. Okay. I'm going to take a reading on this, but I think we're going to end up sweetening this. We have to, well, not sweetening it. We're going to add some sugar to it. Never do that.
Don't do that.
It slipped. Sorry.
Have we stirred it since you well, I guess the violent pour would have stirred it on its own.
It's stirred.
All right.
It's disturbed.
The reason why I'm constantly reminding Brian, did you stir it? Did you stir it? Is because if you don't have a homogeneous brew, meaning all of the different elements are not equally, uniformly combined, then your gravity reading more than likely is not going to be correct. So that's why I keep stressing that.
Okay, right now we're sitting at a 1.052. I would like this to go to like a 12 or 13% alcohol, mostly for preservation's sake and to be a traditional wine. So I'm thinking we need a pound of sugar.
Pound of sugar.
Everything we used here has been sanitized in.
The red bucket
That's why I can dump this right back in. If we hadn't done that, then don't do that. Don't put it back in there. Some people throw that away. I'm just not some people. Pound of sugar coming up. 1 pound white sugar. Can you use other kinds of sugar? Yeah, if you really want to. For this, we don't actually want it to alter the flavor profile, so that's why we're just using plain old white sugar. Now, why 1 pound of sugar, you might be thinking? Well, if we had a 1.052 gravity already, that's only going to really make like maybe 6.5% or so alcohol, which is great if we were making like a low ABV cider or a, something like that. But I want this to be a wine, okay? I want this to have some alcohol kick to it. So 1 pound of white sugar in a gallon of must, which is about how we have this here, will make 0.046 gravity. So add 46 to 52 and you get 1.098, which is darn close to my 1.100 perfect target gravity. I call it perfect, but it's not perfect. It's just, that's my normal target gravity. However, we do have slightly over a gallon now because of adding other things. Because we did add a little bit of water for the fermento, and we added that pound of sugar.
And we're going to have to add that before...
Well, this has the...
Yeah, but we're going to have to add that before taking our final gravity reading.
It looks as though our yeast is healthy enough. I'm seeing some bubbles here. It's not foaming up quite as much as I would have liked it to. So I have another half packet of that same yeast. They're from different batches. So we're gonna add this in too.
Should I mark?
I don't think there's any reason. We're only using 1.5 because we're just making sure.
We're hedging our bets, making sure we have enough live yeasts in with the dead yeast. Dead yeasts are good too because...
And it gets rid of them, so I never have to look at dead yeast in this house again.
Yeast are kind of cannibalistic. But this way, we're hoping we have enough live yeast in our colony to start up so they can reproduce and make a bigger colony.
Right. I've never seen yeast clump like this before. It's crazy. But I'll get them. Get them all. This may take a minute. All right, now it's just getting messy.
It is. It's everywhere. It's on the baster. It's
But we got a pack and a half of yeast in here. I mean, this is enough for like 7.5 gallons. If this doesn't work, I don't know what's gonna.
Should I go ahead and take a new pH reading just to see what are combined? Because we didn't do that.
We haven't done that. Let me get this in here first.
Okay. Yeah, that looks fine.
Yeah, we got
With a pack and a half, it's fine.
I think the yeast is good. I just like to make sure. I didn't see as much activity as I would have liked in that time period.
We didn't get our foam dome.
That's right. One of the times we had a foam dome. I mean, it was like... Okay.
pH reading.
Oh, I didn't mix the sugar in.
I thought you did.
Did I mix it in fully?
I don't know.
No, I put the yeast in.
Okay.
I don't think I mixed that sugar in good yet. Not that the sugar should affect the pH. Oh, looks like I might have.
Yeah, I thought you did.
You know, we got so many things going on at one time. Trying to keep track of it all.
At this stage, it's better to mix too much than to mix too little.
And before anybody makes a comment, no, we have not been drinking at all. We're just like this. Actually, I'm more quiet when I'm drinking. Aren't I? Kind of, I don't know. I get tired.
You do get tired, but you talk a lot.
Oh.
It's your natural state.
Except when I fall asleep.
Except when you fall asleep.
Okay. It's mixed now.
It's good. It's good. What's this pH?
Now I'll do a pH.
All right. So this is...
You know, and it's a really weird thing the way pH works. I don't fully understand it, but I know it's a logarithmic scale, which means it's more of a curve than a straight line as you add more things of different alkalinities or acidities. This is 4.5 pH.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. That's about perfect. So, yay.
Cool. Now, gravity.
It's keeping me down. Okay. I need this. This.
Don't drop it. Excellent.
Everything's sticky over here now.
I'm sorry.
I don't like things being sticky.
He doesn't.
We made a joke out of it years ago, but I really don't like things being sticky. And like the cylinder is sticky. The bulb of the baster is sticky. Whoa. That shot up really fast. Hopefully it's not too much. It should be somewhere like 1.090-ish bubbles. They won't go away. 1.090, like exactly. Cool. Awesome. So that'll give us like 11.3 or so ABV. I'm good with that. It's in the winey range. It's winey.
It's whiny.
Okay. So.
We're good for this now, yeah?
Yes.
I didn't.
Gotta find the threads. Like that.
There you go.
All right.
Gonna have the magic touch.
Put the lid on with an airlock, because if you don't, nasty stuff can get in there. We don't want any flies in our wine, you know, get them caught in the airlock. The airlock is filled with sanitizer fluid, okay?
Properly diluted sanitizer
Right.
liquid.
It's sanitizer fluid for a reason, because the sanitizer liquid is what comes in the bottle. You mix it with water to become sanitizer fluid, okay? I have to be very careful, because somebody the other day misunderstood me and they actually put straight sanitizer in. They caught it really quick because they asked. I was like, no. If you don't want to use that, which I understand, don't use isopropyl or rubbing alcohol. Those are bad for you. They're toxic to humans. And if that ever got in here, not good for you. You can use like a cheap vodka or Scoresby Scotch. You know, that's what I've used. Don't use plain water either, because bugs can actually swim right through that. They can still breathe in water, believe it or not, for a long time. So they will get through that and into your brew. And that's what we're trying to prevent.
So what we're gonna do now?
We'll let it sit.
Where are we gonna sit it on?
Probably a tray with a lip, just in case this thing gets a little overexcited, because, you know, there's caffeine in there, and caffeine gets everybody a little overexcited. If it does, it'll spill out all over into the tray rather than onto the table, making things more sticky than they already are.
If we come across any issues, we'll make sure to share with them. Otherwise, we'll see you basically once fermentation settles out and we're ready to take our first gravity reading check.
Sorry to interrupt the video, but I wanted to tell you about the City Steading VIP Club. It's a super friendly bunch of brewers who get together and constantly help each other and share information. A large part of it is our private Facebook group where you can ask questions and get help. We also have Zoom meetings monthly for most tiers of membership. These hangouts are a great way to ask questions or just hang out with us and the other members. In addition, the higher tiers get their names right in our videos. So consider becoming a VIP. Now, back to the video. Okay, so here we are just about 24 hours in, and Wow, there is a layer of foam in there. It's kind of amazing. There's been a lot of active fermentation. Let me show you the airlock. I mean, check that out. It's going. It's working really, really well. I think the mixture of the cherry juice with the Coke really was the ticket to make this work. It's been a week, but guess what? After just a few days, this stopped. It was pretty good. It wasn't like the most excitable fermentation we've ever seen.
But it was pretty steady.
Pretty steady and pretty active for like 3-4 days.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give it its first reading and see if it's done, if it's stalled, if it just said nope. So far, optical and olfactory inspection, it smells like fermented Coke and cherry juice.
Yeah, which is
It's
actually
a little rough.
kind of a weird aroma.
Yeah, it's a little rough. When there's no sweetness on these things, like Coke not sweetened, tastes weird. It doesn't taste right.
Yeah.
It does have a lovely color. We have a nice reddish.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. I have a feeling this actually finished out. I just got a good feeling about it. And I think I am right.
Dang.
Wow. A lot of people were worried when we hinted at doing this about it not fermenting because of the preservatives in it and the phosphoric acid. But we overcame that
With the cherry juice addition.
with the cherry juice. And I think that was brilliant on Derica's part to come up with that idea, because this is at 0.994. Not only did it finished drier than I ever would have thought.
I would have never guessed that fermenting Coke would have gone that well.
No. Do I want to taste this right now?
No.
No.
Just no.
No. So what we're gonna do, because that's the first check, pretty sure it's done, but I don't want to taste it today. And I wasn't prepared for that. So I'm just gonna pour this back in. Oops, now we can't rack it today. If you don't understand what I meant by all that, if you pour your sample back in, you can disturb the leaves at the bottom, and then you don't want to rack. It's a bad joke, okay?
We're not gonna rack anyway.
We weren't planning on racking today.
What we're going to do is we're going to let it sit for another week, take another reading, make sure that it doesn't ferment anymore, which we doubt it will, but you never know, and then we will rack.
So see you in 2 seconds. So it's been one more week, and we want to give this its second check just to verify that fermentation is complete before we move on to the next step.
Now, if you recall from last time, our reading was
0.994. I had to look, I didn't know either.
So
it's probably
done.
Wow, very clear, nice reddish color. It's
That's
actually
beautiful.
quite pretty. I'm gonna doubt it moved, but if it did,
Is it floating?
yeah, just barely. Okay. Just barely.
Now, you may have noticed in our videos that I keep asking Brian, is it floating? It's really important that your hydrometer is floating, because if it's just resting on the bottom, you're not getting an accurate reading.
Yeah, I had somebody say that they were putting it right into their fermenter, and they said that it wasn't floating. I'm like, well, then you're not getting a reading. You're just not. It has to be able to float freely. It actually seems to have gone down ever so slightly to 992. The thing wants to just fly to the side. I don't know why. No, that's 994. Okay, it's exactly the same. Didn't move.
So that means it is done fermenting. So at this stage, we have a stabilized brew. Now, if we do any adjustments, it's no longer stabilized.
Right. That's a question we get all the time. Why do you pasteurize? Okay, we pasteurize if at this point we decided to add honey or white sugar or brown sugar or anything that's fermentable. If you added apple juice to it or anything like that, anything fermentable, then it has a potential of re-fermenting again. So you'd pasteurize to maintain that. Now, you could also let it ride and build more alcohol and possibly go past the tolerance to the yeast. It's just a little bit more complicated that way, and you have more testing to do. This way, we can move forward in the next step a little quicker and have a very consistent way of telling you the sweetness level of the brew.
So the next stage for this, now that we know our fermentation is complete, is to do a test, a taste test.
Actually, it's to rack it first.
Well, yes, and we had this conversation. I'm going to put this back on here just so I can have this conversation with you, so you know what the heck I'm talking about. Normally, we would rack and let it sit for a week or so, and then come back and taste it, and then add additions, and then let that sit for a week or so, and then rack it again, and then blah, 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 blah. You see where I'm going with this, right? I'm saying, well,
she's impatient.
if we're going to add stuff anyway, why don't we just do that right after racking?
She's not wrong. She's not wrong. We could totally do that. We haven't in the past because it's a habit that I picked up from winemaking is to rack, let it sit, then test. Rack, let it sit, then test. In this case, it's probably not necessary. That week isn't going to change anything. It's not going to age significantly in a week. It might drop a little bit more out sediment-wise, but it's going to drop stuff out from what we add to it, like she said. So,
Now,
yeah, she's right.
If you are not producing a YouTube channel and you have all the time in the world, Adam, targeting you, then by all means, just let it sit. It's okay.
There's
You
no
don't
rush.
have to rush the process. You don't have to rush the process.
I would
I
also
said
like-
that twice for a reason.
But I would like to point something out. We're not rushing it.
No, we're not.
We're not, because that's something that I don't want to do. Even though we have a YouTube channel, we're not rushing this. We
No.
have plenty of things going at once that we don't have to. But there's no reason for us to leave this for a week with nothing happening. That's the difference.
And if we confused you a little bit about why we're doing things differently this time, it's mostly because of our ingredients. If you recall, the ingredients for this brew are Coke and cherry juice. So there's very little solids or
there's
flavor
not much,
adjustments that's going to occur after racking. Now, if this was a full fruit, 100% fruit ferment, then I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be saying, let's let it rack, let's let it sit,
That's fair.
and then taste it.
So it's a case by case.
It's case by case.
Let's get the pitcher and the racking gear and start racking.
Let's put that in a glass and take a sip.
I can tell you right now, it's going to need sweetness. However, it doesn't smell bad. It actually kind of has a little bit of the plum wine kind of smell.
Cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. Wow, that is way better than I thought it was going to be dry.
Oh yeah, it does have a plum.
Yep, there's a specific smell that plum wine has. This kind of has it.
Neat.
It needs sweetness, without a doubt. But it's actually not bad. It's unique. Coke dry does not necessarily, Coke without sweetness isn't really good, but the cherry juice mixed with it actually makes it a little better. It's great tannic quality.
Kind of like almost a coffee
Yeah,
note.
that's the cola nut.
I'll have to say right now, I am so happy that we added the cherry juice.
Oh
Because
yeah, this would not be palatable.
when Brian said, hey, let's make a Coke wine, I was just like, why?
Yeah, this would not be palatable without the cherry juice. I would not like it at all. But the cola nut is adding, like you said, just a touch of coffee note to it. So it's kind of like coffee and cherry wine.
It's kind of reminding me of our chocolate, our
Chocolate covered cherry wine.
yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So let's rack this to a pitcher and alter the sweetness.
Yes. All right, so Brian is a bit of a creature of habit, and I may have broke him by doing it this way. So I'm just going to explain to you, which means I'm actually explaining to him what my thought process was here. Normally, we take a reading, we dump that reading into our destination vessel, as he's doing right now, and then we rack all this into that pitcher, and then we pour from the pitcher into a glass.
Yes, it's a system. It works.
I just poured from there to the glass. That's all.
She broke me.
I broke them. We really didn't change anything. It's okay. So racking. How do we rack, Bri?
Auto siphon. Source. Destination. Lower. Put this in with the cap on because there's some stuff in the bottom there probably. Go about halfway down. Get it started. Now, there's a reason we don't just pour it because you can oxidize. Oxidizing can do a few things, okay? It can cause vinegarization over time. This is in the range. It's 12 to 13%, where it's not as likely, but it could happen. Also, oxidizing can change the flavors. It can make it taste muted and old and musty, and there's a lot of things that can happen. It can cause off flavors. Let's just say it that way. It's not always preferable. There are very few instances in wines and spirits and stuff that they oxidize on purpose, but for the most part, it's something to be avoided. Is it a major thing where just the slightest bit is going to oxidize and ruin? No, not necessarily, but it's a do the best you can kind of situation. So pouring is definitely not the best way to go. Siphoning in general is the way to go. An auto siphon is just really convenient.
Now, in brews like this that are really dark in color, it is more difficult to see where your least cake is. In this instance, our bottom section where the least Lee's cake is slightly creamy and lighter in tone than the liquid. So we're going to try to not agitate our vessel because that's going to disturb the lees, and just do the best we can for this first racking. More than likely, we're going to rack at least twice throughout this brew's lifetime.
Right. But we want to leave behind as much sediment as possible is the gist. Especially since the next step is tasting more. So we don't want to be tasting sediment.
Ta-da!
Okay, we ended up with, looks like about 4,200 milliliters.
Which is over a US gallon.
Yeah. So we're going to sweeten this. We decided, because of the flavors that are already here, we're trying to stay true to the cherry Coke concept. We're just going to add plain old white sugar. Can you use other things if you want to? Of course. They will just alter the flavor in that way. Now, how much sugar? As usual,
probably a lot.
the amount that we put in, that's how much. But we will give you a final gravity reading at the end, because if I say 1 pound, what if it's supposed to be less than a pound? What if it's supposed to be more than a pound? It's not really an appropriate way to do it.
What if your ending volume was less or more than ours?
Exactly.
What if your
Changes
gravity
it.
reading was less or more than ours? What if your fermentation went different than ours, which it probably did? That pound of sugar isn't really going to help you.
However, experience will tell you how much to start with. This needs to be pretty sweet, so I'm putting in a good half a pound to start with, which might give us like a 1.020 specific gravity. We always say gravity, we mean specific gravity. Somebody asked me the other day, what is gravity? And I really wanted to say, it's the thing that holds everything together, but I didn't go there. I said it's specific gravity, it's a reading. Yeah, we say gravity all the time, and we actually mean specific gravity. Now, people have asked too, couldn't I take some of the wine, heat it up, and put the sugar in it and dilute that through? Well, yeah, you can. And other people have shown concern that we are oxygenating by doing this. Now, let me just say one thing. This is less than 2 weeks old. It has not been degassed. So there is a good layer of CO2 all over this thing. CO2 is coming out of suspension from this.
He's also angling the paddle so that more of the circulation is caused at the bottom rather than the surface. What you're trying to do is limit the breakage of the surface, which could cause oxygen to enter into the brew.
Right. I'm not mixing air.
The surface layer that's coming into contact with oxygen, there's nothing you can do about that. Yeah. What you're trying to do is to not get bubbles to go into the rest of the liquid.
Well, you say there's nothing you can do about it. Yes, there is. You can use a vessel like this rather than like a wide open pot.
Well,
the more contact you have, the worse. So, you limit the contact.
Yeah.
But to fix it from here, no, you can make it worse though. Now, I just want to say something else about oxidization. We've never had it happen. We've never had it. Our admins and mods, we talk about this constantly. It hasn't happened. Does that mean it can't? No. So that's why it's kind of like sanitization. I know people who do not wash, who do not clean, who do not sanitize, and they don't get infections. Yet. They may sometime, but by sanitizing and being clean, you can prevent the ones that might have happened. It's kind of like insurance, okay? It sucks. Nobody likes insurance, but maybe the people that sell insurance like insurance. But
basically,
it keeps it from happening.
We're trying to put emphasis on the places where you want to be the best that you can for the best practices to limit any
without taking all the
problems.
fun out of it,
So being as clean as you can and limiting oxidization, those two things are really going to help you brew.
Yeah. What she said. That was perfect. Whoops. Big sample.
Uh-oh. Is it going strange in unique places?
Kind of.
Or places where man have never gone before?
No, it tastes like cherry Coke. It tastes just like cherry Coke.
Wow.
It needs to be a little sweeter.
A little bit.
But it's so close to there. Like, if we carbonated this, you would swear this was cherry Coke.
It feels like the commercially made hard sodas.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's nuts.
It needs quite a bit of sweetness. The cola nut flavor was pretty strong. And it's almost a bitter thing when there's no sweetness there. So you want to overcome it. But I'm glad there was some acid in this. The phosphoric acid prevented the need to add an acid blend.
Oh, yeah.
Because this has plenty of brightness. Without that, it's a lively taste. It actually is very nice.
And without the addition of the cherry juice, I had concerns about whether this would ferment at all.
Yeah, it might not have even fermented.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because it was so acidic.
But we had a beautiful fermentation.
Oh, yeah.
0.994.
Yeah. It was just funny. It's like, can we ferment Coke? I mean, that doesn't seem like it's going to work. Boom.
And that's the funny thing. We enter these...
Or 0.994. I said it wrong.
We do these Frankenbrews with sodas and whatever. And the intent is just to experiment with it. The hope is that it works. But the actual expectation is, hey, it's going to be good TV no matter what. We really don't know if it's going to work. We haven't had one fail. And if we did, we'd probably show you. Be like, okay, don't use this one. Like, oh, this is important. On the IBC root beer video that we did, a lot of people are telling us to use Sprecker's root beer because it's made with honey. Now, there's something interesting about Sprecker's root beer. I've not had it, but I looked it up, and there is yucca extract in there. So if you see yucca extract in any sodas, don't ferment with it because it'll actually, it can harm your yeast. Like, it'll stop fermentation. So I looked it up, and I don't know the quantities that are in there, but it's apparently a really strong detractor for fermentation. That might be why they add it. I don't know, because there's no preservatives. They don't have any of the other preservatives, so they might be using that as a preservative, which my understanding is that it works better than the preservatives that are in. See, this didn't have any preservatives either, just the sodium benzoate, I think.
I think it was so acidic that it didn't need any.
Yeah, they used phosphoric acid to do that. Okay, last taste. And then we're going to do a specific gravity reading. It's actually a pretty color.
It is a pretty color.
It looks kind of like a fine wine.
It's good garnet.
It's not a fine wine, but it kind of looks like one. That is seriously not bad at all. I'd drink that. Pour that over ice. I'd drink that.
So yeah, do you want to force carbonate this?
We could. Got to pasteurize first.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to rack this to a narrow mouth container that'll hold it all. Yeah, just. Whatever's left, we can just drink. We're going to put this in a narrow mouth container. We're going to pasteurize it according to our pasteurization video.
I will make sure to link that video in the description below so that you have access to all that information.
I'm going to give them the 30-second version. We put it into a large pot with some water. We also put in our immersion circulator. Some people call it a sous vide. That's actually the method of cooking, but the immersion circulator is the important bit. Put that in there too. Make sure there's a little bit of space. We do use a whole fermenter with an airlock, not plastic, the glass fermenters, just like you see us use all the time. Put that into there. We get that to an internal temperature of 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't know the Celsius, but it'll be right here for you, for 22 minutes. After 22 minutes, I take it, I shut off the immersion circulator first. I remove it from the water, put it on a wooden board or something that won't add thermal shock. Let that sit until it completely cools. Check your airlock that it doesn't suck back in. If you need to remove it for a little while or whatever, that's fine. I usually just every couple hours remove it and put it back.
The reason that happens is because the internal temperature is hotter than the external temperature, and so it'll create a reverse.
It'll bubble while it's pasteurizing because all of your CO2 is coming out and it's expanding just a little bit.
And then it's cooling, it gets down to go backwards. So.
Yes, that. Once it gets down to room temperature or normal temperature, I put it back in the fermentation station, leave it there for a week or two, and then we will do the next step, which we might be pressure carbing this. If we decide not to, the next part that you're going to see is us doing a final tasting on it. Almost forgot. Want to do a gravity reading for you so that you know what we added. Whoops. As soon as I turned the camera off, we were like, ah! Yeah. All right, I'm going to use the baster because habit, like she said. I'm going to guess 1.032. That is my estimate for sweetness level, which puts it squarely in the sweet category, but I don't think it's that high. Oh, so close, 1.030. Okay, so what that means is if you are trying to do this at home and you want to get to the same, roughly the same taste that we have in ours, you want to sweeten this until it hits 1.030 original gravity. Not original, 1.030 specific gravity. That way you know you're in the same ballpark that we are. Now, you may like yours sweeter or less sweet. That's why you should taste it along the way to see if that's what you like.
Because you're making this for you, not for us.
We already have ours. Okay, so like I said, we're going to pasteurize this. and see you in like 2 seconds. So another week has gone by, and you know what? It's time to carbonate this stuff. And, well, I really don't trust natural carbonation on this one. I don't think it's gonna work. So we're gonna pressure carb. And it's actually really, really simple. The first thing we need to do is get it from this into a mini keg. And we're using the TM Craft mini kegs. They are not a sponsor. They did not send us these kegs. However, we do have links to them on Amazon so you can get your own, and that way you can pressure carb too. And yes, we are Amazon affiliates. We do get a small commission at no additional cost to you, but it does help support the channel and it keeps us from putting third-party sponsor ads in our videos.
So thank you in advance.
Yes. Okay, so racking. The usual, we're just gonna rack it. I don't need the airlock any longer. I don't know how much stuff is in the bottom because this is really, really dark. It doesn't look like much. Do we risk it?
Oh, you mean cap?
Cap or no cap? This is very full as well. You know what? I'm leaving the cap on. Here's a reason why. There is some leaves in the bottom here, and it'll be in our keg, so it'll be in there permanently, and it's probably going to be the first thing that gets drank out. So instead of doing that, we're going to let it just leave a little bit of waste in the bottom here, because this is also a little bit over a gallon. I don't want to overfill.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to go with that story. Okay, but racking is the usual. We're just using an auto siphon, put it in about halfway, get it started, source higher than destination. If you don't know how to rack, we do have a video just on racking that explains how you do this.
I'll make sure to link that in the description below. We have racked, and if you are the holder of the vessel, this is a precarious process because you can't see what you're doing.
I saw it.
We had like a little light, and we're like trying to...
I had this.
It was a little...
It's very close to the top, but I would say we just hit like the inverted funnel portion of the keg.
But we also know we need to put this in there, and it will displace some of that liquid.
But so did the tubing from the auto siphon.
Right, but the tubing was holding liquid, so unless this sucks the liquid back up...
It doesn't right away, but some will get in there.
I still have concerns, but at least it's no longer on my lap.
Ah, we're good. We're good. Okay, so by this is the apparatus that we will need to be able to carbonate, okay? It's a faucet, spigot, whatever you want to call it, and it has the center container, and this is the tube, whoops. This is tubing that forms your dip tube, and at the bottom there's a little bit of a weight. Some of them don't come with the weight. It's not a big deal. Just let it sit in the bottom. I did get a couple of metal dip tubes for those, but it's not absolutely necessary. Now, I'm gonna put this on first and tighten it down. I usually just go hand tight on all this stuff. They don't come fully assembled. You'll have to put the faucet on yourself, but it's really quite simple to do.
Is that called a tap?
Tap! Yeah, well, I don't know if that's called a tap. I call it a spigot.
Because, like, tap infers...
I think this whole thing is the tap.
The process of tapping a keg.
Yeah.
So...
I don't know. And then we have the regulator. Now this is the valve for the regulator as well as the gauge for the regulator. And what you want to do is set it to as low as it can go. So all the way like that, so it's closed off. Then I'm going to use a little 16 gram CO2. Now, some people say you can't do this with 16 grams. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. There's something else that has to happen, which I'm going to get to in a minute. We do have another setup to use SodaStream. So before anybody asks about that, we do have SodaStream canisters, and we have the whole setup to change this over to using SodaStream. I just haven't done it yet, so I didn't want to show it on camera. But this, what I want to do is screw this in, and you want to do it kind of quickly once it gets sort of tight, like that, so that you don't lose any, not even a little bit, and go in really nice and tight. So as long as this is closed, you won't hear any hissing right now. If that wasn't closed, you'd hear all kinds of gas coming out and you'd be losing all of your CO2. And now that we have this assembled, I just want to tighten this onto the attachment here for it. We're not going to start the gas yet, and there's a good reason for that. And that's because, whoops, you don't want to turn that valve. That is because CO2 gets into the liquid best, and at all really, when it's cold. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this whole thing and stick it in the fridge and let it sit there for probably a couple of days to get super cold. Then I'm gonna open up that valve and start the carbonation process. I'll probably do a little quick video to show you that. It's really simple. I'm gonna turn the valve all the way on, but I'm gonna show you what the regulator does because it's really cool. And then we let that sit for a few days, like, you know, maybe a week, and shake it up every now and then, and you have carbonation.
All right, to the fridge.
All right, so just a quick update. This has been sitting in the fridge for about 2 days. It is quite cold. And I'm just going to turn this dial here, and you can hear the gas going in, just cranking it up as high as it'll go. Looks like it's sitting at just under 25 PSI. That should be good for carbonating. I'm also going to give it a shake, but that's kind of hard for me to do while I'm holding the camera. So I'm going to shake this up real good and put it back in the fridge. And it's going to sit there probably for 4 or 5 days, and we'll check it at that point and see how carbonated it is.
So it's been 5 days, and this has been sitting in the fridge. It is very cold and hopefully carbonated. I did shake it up every day.
Yep, that's what I wanted.
That's an important thing. The gauge has not moved. This thing is still holding at 22 to 23 PSI. What I have learned, though, is I want to turn the gas off right now, and I want to release some of that pressure. Okay. Now I turn the gas back on to put it to a dispensing pressure, which is like 8 or so PSI. Right in there. Perfect. And that's it. Good to go. But for this, I wanted to try out one of my new toys. So you're going to get to see the hat cam. Okay, I feel absolutely ridiculous for the second time because the first time I didn't even turn the button on to make this thing record. So that's why Derica's glass is already full and mine had some in it too. But you don't know that. you don't realize that. So here we go with the hat cam pouring. Look at that. Nice and foamy. And it's got carbonation. Okay, let me turn this ridiculous thing off now. We have carbonation in cherry Coke wine.
So
It's bubbly.
I don't like the aroma. I'll just be blunt.
It smells like cherry Coke, kind of, with alcohol.
Honest. I just, the aroma isn't doing it for me. And it might just simply be because it smells like Coke and I don't like Coke. But it doesn't smell good to me.
Okay, then. It smells like cherry Coke. It really does. Like a cherry wine. Actually, it smells like somebody poured cherry wine into Coke, which is probably why you don't like it. It's that weird combo. She doesn't like it at all. The carbonation is lovely.
I'm getting some cherry on the back end that's making me somewhat happy, but
The Coke kind of went a little strange. This tasted better before we carbonated it. I don't know if...
went funky.
How did aging change this that much?
It's
It's like 5 days.
we did something that just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
This is an unnatural.
I mean, it's not bad. It's kind of an acquired taste. I think if you really like Coke, and you really like cherry Coke, you might like this.
I was happy that I had the idea to add the cherry juice in it because that completely took care of the over-acidity problem so that fermentation could happen. But now I'm kind of sad that we put cherry juice in Coke because...
Because the cherry juice had better purposes? Is that what you're trying to say?
That's what I'm saying.
It's okay. I can go along with that. I don't think this is a fail, though. I really don't. I think it's very successful.
It was a shockingly, surprisingly prolific success as far as fermentation goes. Because when we were like, oh, let's ferment Coke, I'm like, can you even do that? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, this is like a 9 to a 10 for repeatability. It's easy.
Absolutely.
If you do what we did,
Yeah.
it was basically just Coke, Mexican Coke. You have to use the one with
The
cane
real
sugar.
Cane sugar, yeah.
Premier Blanc yeast, cherry juice, fermento, and some sugar. And that was it. And it went beautifully well for fermentation. And then all we did was rack it to a keg. Oh, we added sugar and pasteurized it.
It's not for me.
I'm gonna have to say it's not really my thing either. It's not. The thing is, just because we don't like it doesn't mean it's not well done.
Right, you have to take it to understand that I don't drink soda.
Yeah, I don't really drink.
Like, I've
much at all.
never drank soda. The only soda I would drink was like root beer and ginger ale, and that was even later in my life. As a youth, nope.
As a Ute.
As a youth, I was an orange juice girl. Just give me straight pure orange juice, and I'm happy.
Wow. Okay.
No cola.
Even I didn't know that.
Lemonade was also a favorite of mine.
Yeah. As I'm drinking it, though, I'm not getting any off flavors or any weirdness. The ethanol isn't even super strong for 13%.
I think all the weirdness is just inherent that it's fermented Coke.
Yeah, I think the fermented coconut flavor is just not real. Not coconut, coca.
Coca.
Is not. It's not really.
I keep on wanting to drink it again to see if things will change. Like the last drink, I exhaled as I was drinking, so I didn't get any of the aroma, and it's just still like.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh,
Nope. I'm gonna do one more.
just got
He's got the goosebumps. That's
goosebumps. That used to be a thing. If I drank something that was too dry or whatever, I would get goosebumps. This isn't dry though. This is like semi-sweet. Repeatability though, very, very easy to do. Let's talk about how much we're not enjoying this apparently.
okay. Repeatability score, I would say a 10. No problem.
Oh, okay. I was gonna go with 9 to 10.
Maybe a 9 because of the pressure
Yeah, the
kegging.
pressure kegging is gonna complicate a little bit.
Yeah.
Natural carbing this probably going to be very difficult because
Yeah.
we're approaching pretty much what yeast can do, so it's a little more complicated.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it. Enjoyability. Let me just go over our scale. A 1 is pretty much, you're going to dump it out. A 5 is like, oh, yeah, I'll drink that. A 10 is, I want this one. Where is it? I need to find it. 11 is like, you know, the heavens open and everything's perfect. Varying range from 1 to 5 and 5 to 10 is, you know, within that kind of ideal, that paradigm, if you will. This is going to be a rough one. Because I'm not really sure where to put it. It's a successful brew, but we don't like the flavor. And I'm going to be just honest, we don't really like the flavor. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So
I liked it better last time we tried it.
all the people who wanted us to make something that we knew we weren't going to like just so they could see us drink something we don't like. Here you go, guys. Here it is.
All right. Do you have a score?
I do.
I'm basing this off of Nettle Mead. Is this better or worse than Nettle Mead? That's pretty much where I'm at. Are you ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3,
2.
3. Yeah, I would go higher, except there's this cola taste in there. It just kind of isn't good. If it was just cherry wine carbonated, I think it would be much better.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you want to make this, leave the Coke out. And it'll be so much better. That's it. I broke her. That was awesome. So that's kind of the gist on this one. It's not bad. If you like cherry Coke, you'll probably actually really appreciate this. We're being a little funny and silly on it, but that is the truth. Neither of us really drink Coke much. I can drink Coke on occasion. This went in a slightly strange way. There's a flavor there that's just not really working for me. It's not an off flavor from fermentation. It's the Coke itself.
It's Coke.
Yeah, it's the Coke itself. So
Coke and alcohol with some cherry.
that's where we're at on this one. Make this if you want a Frankenbrew that tastes like cherry Coke. And if you want something that tastes good, leave the Coke out, like I said. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.